Hey everybody, it's Wednesday, and before I get into the meat of the video, I do want to give you an update on Lagarto, my kitty. He is still with us, which yesterday we were not sure he would be until we had him at the vet. Sorry, the day before. Monday we took him. Yesterday we're waiting for the test results. Anyway, yesterday we got the confirmation that he has diabetes, which is why he lost 4 pounds and was puking and seemed disoriented. He had a blood sugar of 25. Apparently, cats' blood sugar is supposed to be around 7. So dude was just tripping balls on too much blood sugar. But he is eating again. I've been doing sub-Q fluids under the skin. They've given us insulin. So I have to get him rehydrated, and he gets like twice daily insulin needles. But that's good. He's still with us. Odd little cute thing. If people don't know why Lagarto is named Lagarto, despite him being like an adorable ginger cat, he has a head tilt from a lifelong neurological condition. And so, and he used to go like, wah, wah. He has a really strange meow. And so there's a character in a comic book called The Goon. A guy by the name of Eric Powell does this comic called The Goon. And it's this like big kaiju monster that they clone into like a butler. And he's like a Peter Lorre type guy. But he like babbles nonsense in Spanish with like this tilted head. And so that's who Lagarto reminded us of. And so his name is Lagarto. Lagarto gato instead of Lagarto hombre. Yeah, that's why we have a cat named the Spanish word for lizard. It is expensive, all these things. So that's a good segue to help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/Leanna K. I may do like a GoFundMe or a Facebook fundraiser or something like that as well with some of the costs. Because we've got like 4 pets now, all needing something in and between now and spring. So it's been a lot. But it's better to have them, right? But that's not the topic today. I don't normally do politics on my YouTube channel. No good comes from it. But this is something that actually is relevant to video games, and I think bears speaking about. And I can give a shout out to my buddy Eric Kane's coverage. Joe Biden, Uncle Joe, calls game devs little creeps whose games teach you to kill people. Now that is a bit of a oversimplification, but Eric does quote it in the Biden made these comments to the New York Times editorial board when he was in there to try to get their endorsement. The endorsement went to Amy Klobuchar and Elizabeth Warren. But at one point, Biden says, and you may recall the criticism I got for meeting with the leaders in Silicon Valley when I was trying to work out an agreement dealing with them protecting intellectual property for artists in the United States of America. And at one point, one of the little creeps sitting around that table, who was close to a billionaire, put a pin in that one, who told me he was an artist because he was able to come up with games that teach you how to kill people. You know, the guy says, like, video games? Yeah, video games. And then one of these righteous people said to me that, we are the economic engine of America. We are the ones. Unfortunately, I'd done a little homework before I went and said, I find it fascinating. As I added up the 7 outfits, everyone's there but Microsoft. I said, you have fewer people on your payroll than all the losses that General Motors just faced in the last quarter of employees. So don't lecture me about how you've created all this employment. My point is there's an arrogance about it, an overwhelming arrogance that we are the ones. We can do what we want to do. I disagree. So yes, he did refer to the people in that room as little creeps. And I'm pretty sure the guy didn't say he was an artist because he comes up with games to teach you how to kill people. I'm pretty sure that's Biden's version of it. But you notice he went from multimillionaire to close to a billionaire. Like, this is what Biden tends to do. His stories grow with the telling. But so many things about this aren't cool. One is you shouldn't be pitting one employment sector against another employment sector. The fact that, a AAA video game company may hire, 50 people instead of a shift hiring, like a car manufacturing shift hiring 500 people or when there's a layoff at a plant out in Oshawa or something up here, it's like 800 people lose their jobs. But like, it doesn't matter. They're creating jobs, right? They're creating jobs. You shouldn't pit one employment sector against another. And you shouldn't refer to people who are willing to meet with you as little creeps, because that makes other people who may disagree with you less likely to want to meet with you. But there's more to this than, and this is why I think it's important. Some people may be thinking, who cares what Biden thinks about video games? All we care about is that he can beat Trump, whatever. There's more to it than that, because Joe Biden has a lengthy track record when it comes to video games. It goes back to when he was Barack Obama's vice president. He mentions that a lot. But he was tasked back in, I think, 2012 with... here's the people he met with. So here's in the room, likely. This is back in 2012. You'll see Joe Biden did not just meetings with the video game industry, but also he funded, the Obama government funded a bunch of research into the links between video games and violence. And that was the explosion of research that found no link between violent video games and real life violent behavior. That was the deluge of research that after that, people were basically like, definitively, no, games don't cause violence. So he should know that video games don't teach people how to kill people. But in case you're wondering who was in that room, he met with Apple CEO Tim Cook, Netflix CEO Reed Hastings, two prominent video game executives, former EA CEO John Riccitiello and Zynga chairman Mark Pincus. It was probably Riccitiello, which is odd because he's a CEO, not an artist. It really sounds like Biden was embellishing to try to make a point and score some cheap points on the backs of game makers. But here's the issue I have with this, okay? Joe Biden was the guy getting this research done. He was the guy that Obama tasks to do this task force or whatever the hell they called it at the time. This was familiar when I was writing Boss Fight. Now that I'm in the editing phase, it's all a haze with the costumes. But yes, Biden was involved. And Biden should know better than anybody. Video games don't make you violent. Video games don't cause violence. Video games don't encourage violence. No link. And that's important. Because if a politician were to ignore scientific evidence, scientific fact, scientific consensus on, say, climate change, you wouldn't respect them very much, right? Like, if you're a climate denier at this point, come on, you're just ignoring the science. If somebody was an anti-vaxxer, you'd probably have an issue with that. I know I would. The lack of a link between video games and violence is science. And I do not respect anybody, but especially any politician with power, who doesn't heed science, who pretends he didn't hear science or ignores science or refuses to believe science. Now, science is not infallible, but it's a lot less fallible than some of these other belief systems that just, I know what I know. kind of thing. You can't just ignore scientific consensus. And the fact that Biden should know this and doesn't, or should know this and is pretending not to, he's basically selling out EA, which, let's face it, nobody gives a shit about EA, but, you know, he's selling out game development companies. And let's face it, nobody in that room was actually a game dev. These are CEOs. So he just messed this whole thing up completely. Like, we're assuming this is the meeting. He's not meeting with a ton of video game people, right? Like, this is the meeting. And I'm sure the people in that room, some of them were little creeps. Yay. But he managed to step in it. And I saw, like, people I know who were game devs on on Facebook going, wow, Joe Biden just called me a little creep. That's bad politics, first of all. I don't know if it'll change anybody's vote if it's between, like, him or Trump. It may cause some people to just stay home because they don't like anybody. I don't think that's going to happen this time. But I do think this is an indication that we can do better than Biden. And we can actually get somebody who doesn't ignore science, any science, somebody who's actually interested in facts instead of just emotionally charged rhetoric, who says things because they think it sounds good. Okay? What do you think? Interested in what you think. The Feedback Friday is probably going to be on yesterday's video based on the comments. There were some really high quality comments yesterday, but this is my video for today. Yay. Kitty's good. Yay, Lagarto. That's all I really care about right now, quite frankly. So if I seem a bit scattered, it's because I haven't slept in 3 days because I've been dealing with him. And now that he's okay, I'm like, I was yawning so bad on Twitch last night. So if you want to help, would you, question for you, I'm not going to read this on Feedback Friday, just interest for me. If I set up a GoFundMe for like this temporary vet crunch, is that something people would kick a few bucks to? Just informal question before I do it. The other way to do it is become a patron, which also lets you nominate video games that I'll play on Twitch. It also gives you, patrons are getting a lot of boss fight costume preview stuff right now. So if you like that behind the scenes stuff, I love my patrons. They're the best. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching.